Betty hurried to work. Outside the condo entrance, she saw an ad. It said that if anyone found $50 on the stairs, then please bring it to apartment number 4. Betty remembered who lived in this apartment and understood why they wrote the ad. It was Mrs. Johnson, who had no family. Those $50 that she lost must have been a hard blow on her budget. Betty decided to do a good deed. Although she didn't find the lost money, the old lady was always friendly and welcoming. She always asked how she was doing and listened intently, so Betty just wanted to give her this money. She rang the doorbell, and when Mrs. Johnson opened, Betty greeted her and handed the money. "What is happening?" The old woman was surprised. "Did you all set this up? These are not mine. Thank you." Betty said it was her money. She found it in the elevator. The old woman wanted to object, but then a hiss was heard from the kitchen. She got scared and said that there was milk on the stove, and it sounded like it was spilling over. The old woman rushed to the kitchen. Betty looked at her watch and realized that if she waited for Mrs. Johnson, she would definitely be late for work. So she put the bill on the table next to the keys. She closed the door and ran out. A few minutes later, Mrs. Johnson returned to the corridor. She saw the money on the table and sighed. "This is not my money," she repeated into the empty hallway. "You're the 7th person to bring me my $50. I didn't write the ad, and somebody please take it down." Betty was coming home from work and stopped at the door. There was another ad on it. In it, Mrs. Johnson invited everyone to a homemade cake dinner in the evening according to her family recipe. Betty smiled and decided to stop by. She was surprised when the old woman took her into the room, and all the residents of their house were sitting at the table. Everyone laughed and asked where Betty found Mrs. Johnson's $50. Betty said, "In the elevator." The neighbors laughed, and everyone told where they found their bill. Someone in the mailbox, someone else in the trash can. Mrs. Johnson brought in a nice big pie, which turned out delicious. Everyone had a great time. At the end, Mrs. Johnson said, "We barely know each other. Work, worries, crazy pace of life. I didn't even know the names of some of you. And I'm very ashamed of that, because as it turned out, I lived with wonderful and most importantly, kind people. Thank you for your help." Good cannot be measured. What seems a trifle to you may turn out to be very important to another. Do good without thinking about the consequences.